Today we are sharing about our phenomenological study of the phenomenon co as we have experienced it. In the first part of this presentation, we are going to share a previous study that gave rise to this work, and then we're going to describe how co began to emerge in our writing group and collective. From there, we're going to walk you through how we took up phenomenological practices, writing, theorizing, dwelling, and bridling as we studied the phenomenon more deeply. And finally, we're going to share what co revealed to us as both moments of harmony and discord and why it matters for us as scholars. We offer this not as seasoned phenomenologists, but as budding, maybe even toddler phenomenologists, learning to take up the attitude and into the practice as we go.
Coming into our doctoral programs, we had previously worked in professions, both of us educators, where collaboration was a norm. But our initial experiences in academia felt different. We felt isolated, siloed, and this left us questioning our belonging in the space. After a class we had together on an elevator ride from the 6th floor to the 1st floor of our building named Adderhold, we asked each other, what do we do when we're in a system that doesn't suit us? We wrestled with this question for a while and decided to start a writing group where we could experience more collaboration. Often, working in publishing and academia, we've noticed, looks more like dividing and conquering, but we didn't want that. We wanted something different, even if we couldn't quite name it yet. We were drawn to what Rendon describes as working toward a community that values authenticity, creativity, and connection over detachment and purely objective scholarship. At first, our writing group looked more like sharing what we were working on for our classes, cheering each other on, giving each other fist bumps, offering guidance and support. But over time, it morphed into a collaborative research project where we experimented with the methodologies we were learning. Through this process, we noticed a palpable shift moving from sharing individual work to creating something together. We began naming these moments of being and working together as co. We started to live co before we had a full definition. The image on this slide is an excerpt of a piece we co-wrote that is now in press. Each color represents a different person's writing in our group as part of a whole, together but identifiable. As a side note, this writing process as co is a future paper. Our group grew into something bigger. Let us show you our Friends Collective.
Okay, so this is us. This is our Friends Collective. We're a group of 5 women doctoral students. We each navigate multiple roles, including but not limited to scholar, teacher, mother, wife, and even a farmer, which is Allie. One of our earliest experiences of working towards co is when we started to theorize the word harmony. Our bracelets in that picture on the left say harmony. As we talk about co throughout this presentation, we're going to use our theorizing harmony as an anecdote to ground the study of co, but we want you to know that our experience of co isn't limited to the one anecdote that we're going to share. Theorizing harmony came out of a critical participatory inquiry study on how we manage our multiple roles while living as women scholars. At one point, someone asked in our group, how do we balance it all? And our reaction to the word balance was visceral disgust. It didn't fit. As Sarah Ahmed reminds us in her quote, in an unbalanced world, balance is unbalanced, end quote. For us, balance felt like losing ourselves in academic work, everything being of equal weight, while striving for perfection, and what we wanted instead was to bring our full selves to the work. So as we moved forward, we began to redefine how we navigated academia, not through an impossible pursuit of balance, but through harmony. For us, harmony represents the possibility of weaving together our multiple roles imperfectly, yes, but in a way that creates an integrated whole. These moments of what we now call co were profound. They made us feel like we were all in it together. Sometimes the energy was so strong that we wished we had a camera rolling. In the transcripts, you can hear us squealing and laughing, crying often in some of these sessions. Those experiences became more than just a personal, individual experience and moment. They became concepts that Allie and I wanted to explore further in a phenomenological study as we carried forth our work.
We initially understood co in the context of harmony, but as we experienced it more fully, the phenomenon revealed itself as something richer and much more complex. This led Alyson and I on a pursuit to understand what is the lived experience of co. So what did co actually look like in practice? Here are some examples.
Have to distinguish Allie and Alyson somehow. So when we talk about our experiences of co, we mean different ways that we lived and practiced together as scholars. So for us, one of those ways was co-writing. And this was very literal. We started writing together in real time on the same document, as you saw in the previous slide with all the colors. We were building sentences side by side. My favorite part is that sometimes a sentence would literally contain 3 different colors, and it was 3 people's ideas merged into one sentence. This was not about efficiency, because it wasn't efficient. It was really difficult for us at first to live into that because work output and efficiency are equated with success at large. But what we wanted was a new rhythm of how our voices overlapped, how we interrupted one another, built on each other's ideas, and the writing in this way through co blurred the boundaries of those words and whose words were whose, and turned the writing itself into a collective act. The second way was co-theorizing, which happened when we wrestled with ideas, asking questions, pushing each other's thinking, and dialogically engaging until new concepts began to emerge. Our extended example of harmony in this presentation is an example of this. The third way is co-dwelling, which we're going to define a little bit more on the next slide. But co-dwelling took many forms. Sometimes it meant we were listening to transcripts. Sometimes it meant pausing for silence, creating space to think. But at its core, dwelling was about purposefully slowing down and allowing contemplation to guide us together. As co-writers, co-theorists, co-dwellers, we learned to embrace the diversity of our group. Each of us brought different voices and knowledge, and through reflexivity and critical consciousness, we discovered that we could do a lot more together than we could alone. And as a side note, Allie and I often exchange, if you haven't listened to the Redesigning Women song by the Highwomen, we often exchange the line, how do we do it? How do we do it? We make it up as we go along. So these practices kept evolving, and Allie is going to walk us through the timeline of our journey.
This was a process that evolved, as Alyson said, as we go along. And as we were trying to conceptualize it and put it together, one of our professors says it might make sense as a timeline. So even though this is represented as a timeline, so often these things were happening together or simultaneously, and as it shows up, it's something that's continuing. But this is as when we went back into our transcripts, we realized where this was happening. So picture this, we're a group of women PhD students, each juggling multiple life roles, as Alyson stated, mother, teacher, scholar, wife, farmer, working together through what we called a collective participatory inquiry study to make sense of our lives and all these roles within the academia space. At first, we focused on analyzing and writing about our multiple roles, which is the purple. So this was our first study together and our first sort of jump into doing things all at once together, which is the early part of our journey. During this stage, we theorized around harmony and experienced co in our writing and discussions, but like we said, we hadn't named it yet. Over time, we realized that this was more than just working together. We wanted to move toward, so Alyson and I decided we wanted to move towards a renewed interaction with the phenomenon of co to understand more deeply what we were experiencing. That shift is represented here in pink. Here we began orienting ourselves more intentionally towards this idea of co. This meant using phenomenological, one day I'll be able to say that word, right? Phenomenological practices like that Karen Dahlberg uses, the term bridling instead of bracketing, drawing on the image of a horse's bridle. The point is not to stop the ride entirely, but to hold back, to slow down, to push out the things we think we know about co, and instead you see the phenomenon as it actually presents in our work together. At the beginning of this work, as we were trying to think about phenomenology, I scratched my head and asked Alyson, like, can I actually be a phenomenologist? And Alyson said to me, you need to just bridle what you think about co, bridle what you think you know about phenomenology, and don't think about how you've already experienced it. Let co reveal itself to you. That caution was critical. It helped me hold back my assumptions and let the phenomenon actually show itself. In retrospect, I think if Allyson hadn't had bridled me in that way, I would have thought that every transcript was co from the beginning, when in reality that it was not. This bridling brought profound realizations about our existence as co that neither of us realized as we were living through it, as we'll discuss in a later slide. Dwelling, as Linda Finlay describes it, is slowing down, lingering, and allowing ourselves to sit in the data or the phenomenon. In practice, this meant listening to all the transcripts individually, then bringing them together and listening across from one another over and over, stopping and rewinding, and also being comfortable with sitting in silence. What's important here is the constant movement between part and whole. That's really hard to capture on a timeline, we realized. Between our individual reflections and our collective interpretations, between theorizing and writing, between dwelling and doing. This rhythm of part whole is what shaped our evolving understanding of co. While we're talking about these practices independently, they were also happening simultaneously, which I said. Our goal is to represent the things that we often think we should be doing alone, but maybe there are different possibilities when done together. So this timeline is not just linear, it's recursive, layered, and ongoing, an unfolding journey of how we've come to live and study co together. And sometimes co wasn't easy at all. Alyson will share those moments.
So what we came to realize in our phenomenological look back at co is that it's a lot more than joyfully working together. When we first started theorizing harmony in this CPI, the Critical Participatory Inquiry Study, we experienced some fairly intense disagreements. We were short, we were snippy, we cut each other off mid-sentence, trying to prove our ideal was right. And at the time, when we were in that space doing that, it felt like unproductive work. When Allie and I revisited the transcripts in this phenomenological study, the discomfort of this came flooding back. We were very uncomfortable listening to it. We realized that in the moment, it would have been really easy for us to just acquiesce and say, we will just compromise, whatever your idea, sure, let's just go with that. Instead of doing that, what we did in that moment over and over was stop and dwell. In the moment where we were theorizing harmony specifically, Allie stopped us and she actually said, okay, stop. Let's give everyone space. Let's take time to silently and individually think about what we really mean. And we didn't have a name. We didn't call it dwelling then. We didn't have a name for it. But what we were doing was dwelling. We set a timer. The timer went off. And when the timer went off, we really wanted to play you like a transcript, a little snippet from our transcript. We couldn't figure out how to do it. But we had all these new words. We had clearer language. We had deeper understanding of what we were trying to say. After dwelling, I realized that in the moment of the discord, we were all actually trying to kind of say the same thing. And Allie looked back at a metaphor like an orchestra and described instruments. One of our group members described her work as like an orchestra, how instruments were sharp and forceful and some were lighter. And so those differences created the harmony. And at that moment, looking back at that study, that's when we named harmony and identified co. This is just one example of how we experience co. It wasn't an isolated event. We saw it again and again in our phenomenological study. It was really a breakthrough, though, to see that. What we had originally seen as unproductive strife and competition, we saw what we named discord, which was not a failure of co. Discord actually created the conditions for co to emerge. So through revisiting, dwelling, bridling, Allie and I realized something that we hadn't seen in our critical participatory inquiry study. We thought that co originally was mostly about joy and community. But in revisiting through dwelling, we saw that co was present in the friction, in the struggle, in the hard moments. Harmony couldn't exist without discord. And so therefore, co couldn't exist without both harmony and discord. Harmony doesn't mean that every instrument is playing at the same time or the same note. It's things coming together in a complementary way. It's not just togetherness, it's a whole movement from discord through dwelling into harmony. So co is both harmony and discord, and Allie's going to close us out with what that means for health and wellness.
I'm going to skip over a little bit, but as you can see, that co significantly shaped our doctoral work. We have chosen connection over isolation, discord over avoidance. This makes us wonder how co may show up in other settings What would happen if discord was not avoided but seen as meaningful to collaboration? What may happen if co-dwelling was normed as part of working towards something bigger together? Our phenomenon revealed itself as both a practice of wellness and a way of sustaining ourselves as scholars.
We draw on Rendon a lot, and this quote felt just important. Being authentic is spiritual, ethical, committed, connected, centered, artistic, loving, imperfect, harmonious. There's no evidence that in higher education especially, excellence cannot occur under these circumstances. And what we've come to realize is that Co embodies this kind of authenticity. And our hope in naming Co is that it might open up possibilities for others to embrace discord, to dwell, to discover new rhythms of working together. Our hope is simple, that Co becomes part of not just our story, but part of your story. Thank you.